two of the most powerful states in America, both massive, both influential. But right now, they are moving in opposite directions. Because while one state is growing faster than ever, the other is losing people at a historic rate. Families are leaving. Workers are relocating. Even major companies are moving their headquarters. And this isn't just a trend, it's a shift. One that is happening at scale. And when shifts like this happen, they don't just change cities. They redefine where opportunity exists and where power begins to concentrate. Because for decades, California represented the future. Innovation, technology, global influence. But now, that future is shifting toward a different kind of state. One built on land, expansion, energy, and freedom. Texas. And what's happening between these two states right now is more than just a comparison. It's a turning point. A moment that may define the next era of the United States. Because Texas and California are no longer just competing. They are becoming two completely different models of the future. And the real question is, which one is actually winning? At first glance, Texas and California look equally powerful. Two giants. Two states that seem to dominate everything around them, but they don't grow the same way. And that difference changes everything. Texas expands, not just upward, but outward. Cities stretch across the land. Highways extend for miles. New neighborhoods appear constantly. Construction never really stops. There is always more space, and that space becomes an advantage. Growth feels open, fast, unrestricted. California is different. It's full. Nearly 40 million people living in a tighter space, and that creates pressure. Housing pressure, infrastructure pressure, cost pressure. In cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, space is no longer easy to find. Available land is limited, and when something becomes limited, it becomes expensive. But not just expensive, unreachable for many. Building takes longer, permits slow everything down, and over time that pressure builds. Not just in the market, but in everyday life. Because when space runs out, prices don't just rise, they surge. Rent climbs, home ownership drifts further away, and living costs begin to stack up. So while Texas continues to spread outward, California is forced to compress inward. One state grows through expansion, the other grows through constraint. And that difference is where everything begins to change. And this is where everything becomes real. Now comes the factor that affects people the most. Cost. Because no matter how strong an economy is, or how attractive a place may seem, what people can actually afford changes everything. And this is where the gap between Texas and California becomes impossible to ignore. In Texas, the cost of living is significantly lower. Housing is more accessible. Land is cheaper. And because there is more space to build, supply can continue to grow. That keeps prices under control. In many parts of Texas, owning a home is still within reach, not just for the wealthy, but for the middle class. And that changes everything. Families can grow. Savings can build. Stability becomes real. California tells a different story. Housing prices are among the highest in the United States. In cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, home ownership is no longer a simple goal. For many, it's out of reach. Rent is not just high, it consumes a large portion of income. And for some, nearly half of what they earn. And it doesn't stop there. Taxes are higher. Regulations are stricter. Everyday expenses rise faster. And over time, that financial pressure builds. Not just month by month, but year after year. For some, the opportunities in California still justify the cost. But for many others, the equation no longer works. Because when the cost of living rises faster than opportunity, people begin to reconsider everything. Where they live, where they work, and where they build their future. And this is where the shift begins to accelerate. Because when enough people reach that point, movement doesn't happen slowly. It happens all at once. And in that movement, a pattern begins to form, a clear direction, away from high cost, and towards something more sustainable, more achievable, more stable. And that direction, increasingly, points to Texas. But power isn't just about numbers. It's about how people actually live. Because in the end, what matters most is everyday life. And this is where Texas and California begin to feel completely different. In Texas, life feels open. Cities stretch outward. Homes are larger. Space is easier to find. And for many people, that space creates something powerful. Freedom. Driving is part of daily life. Distances are longer, but so is the feeling of having room to breathe. Growth feels visible. New neighborhoods, new businesses, new opportunities appearing constantly. California feels different, more compressed, more intense, more crowded. In cities like Los Angeles, traffic is not just an inconvenience, it's a daily reality. Commutes can take hours. Time gets compressed. And over time, that pressure builds, not just physically, but mentally. Because living in a place with limited space comes at a cost beyond money. But California also offers something Texas cannot fully replicate: proximity. Access to industries that shape the world: entertainment, technology, innovation. In places like Silicon Valley and Los Angeles, opportunity is concentrated, talent is concentrated, and influence is concentrated. So while Texas offers space and expansion, California offers access and connection. One gives you room to move, the other puts you at the center of everything. And depending on what people value, freedom or proximity, that difference becomes personal. Because choosing where to live is not just an economic decision, it's a life decision. And in that choice, Texas and California are not just different, they are opposites. But here's where things get even more important. What truly separates Texas and California is not just land, it's what lies beneath it. Because when it comes to economic power, these two states are built on completely different foundations. Texas runs on energy, oil, natural gas, massive reserves that have fueled its growth for more than a century. And it all began in 1901 with Spindletop, an explosion of oil so powerful, it changed Texas almost overnight. It didn't just change Texas, it made it one of the most powerful energy regions on the planet. From that moment on, Texas didn't just grow, it accelerated. Refineries expanded, pipelines stretched across the land, and cities like Houston became global energy hubs. Even today, Texas leads the United States in oil and gas production. And that matters, because energy is not just another industry, it powers everything. Transportation, manufacturing, electricity. And when a state controls energy, it holds a different kind of power. California chose a different path. Instead of energy, it built its economy on innovation, technology, entertainment, finance. Silicon Valley became the center of the digital world. Companies that reshaped how people live, how they work, and how they communicate. Apple, Google, Meta. Some of the most valuable companies in history were built there, and that created enormous wealth, but also a different kind of risk. Because technology moves fast, and industries that move fast can shift just as quickly. So while Texas is anchored in physical resources, California is driven by digital ones. One produces energy that powers the world. The other produces ideas that reshape it. Both are powerful, but in very different ways. And when uncertainty rises, those differences begin to matter. Because stability and adaptability are not the same thing, and the balance between them may decide which state leads the future. And now the consequences are visible, not in theory, but in movement. Because what started as pressure has turned into action. People are leaving California, not in small numbers, but at scale. Families, workers, entrepreneurs, even major companies. And they're not moving randomly. They're moving with purpose, searching for something different, something more sustainable. And increasingly, that place is Texas. For decades, California attracted people from all over the world. It was the center of opportunity, the place where careers were built, where industries were created. But now, that flow is beginning to change, and Texas is one of the biggest beneficiaries of that shift. Cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston are growing rapidly. New residents arriving every single day, new neighborhoods expanding, new businesses opening, and new capital flowing into the state. Major companies have already made the move, headquarters relocating, operations expanding, entire teams shifting across state lines. And when companies move, jobs follow, opportunities follow, and people follow. Because migration is not just about preference, it's about incentives. Lower costs, more space, fewer restrictions, and the chance to build something new. In Texas, that chance still feels real, and that changes behavior. People don't just consider leaving. They decide, they plan, and they move. And when millions of people begin making similar decisions, the impact becomes massive. This is not a small trend. It is one of the largest internal migrations in modern American history. Entire regions begin to transform. Economic power begins to shift. And what once seemed permanent starts to change. Because migration at this scale is not temporary. It's structural. It reshapes where people live, where companies invest, and where the future begins to take shape. And right now, that movement is not balanced. It has direction. And that direction continues to point toward Texas. In the end, this is not just a story about two states. It's a story about two different futures, two different ways of building power. California built its strength on innovation, on ideas, on industries that changed the world. And for decades, it defined what the future looked like. Texas built its strength differently, on land, on energy, on expansion, on the ability to grow without the same limits. And now, those differences are becoming impossible to ignore. Because the world is changing, people are rethinking how they live, where they work, and what they value. For some, California still represents access, influence, opportunity at the center of everything. For others, Texas represents something just as powerful: freedom, affordability, room to grow. And that is why this shift matters. Because it's not just about geography, it's about choice. The kind of life people want to build, the kind of future they believe in. And as more people make that choice, the balance continues to change. Because Texas is not just growing, and California is not just adapting. They are moving in different directions. And in that divergence, the real question is no longer about today. It's about what comes next. Because in the end, the future won't belong to the biggest state. It will belong to the one people choose.